Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about sourcing. And sourcing is a super important skill that we're going to use a lot this semester. So I want to make sure everyone understands what it is and feels super comfortable using it. So if you ever need to brush up on this throughout the year, you can just look back at this video, and it's meant to help you. So we're going to use the example of a fight at school. If I can, there we go. So in this example, we're going to say we are the principal and we didn't see the fight, but we know it happened and we need to figure out exactly what happened in order to figure out who to punish, who started it, things like that. So, in order to figure out what happened, we need to interview a lot of people who were involved and people who saw it. The problem is they all say something different. So, how do we know who to believe? So, Matt here was one of the boys involved in the fight. He says that Will randomly punched him in the hallway, so he had to defend himself, and that's why he was fighting. However, Will here says that he only punched Matt because Matt tripped him. Therefore, Matt started the fight. Next, we're going to ask a teacher who saw the fight, Mr. Smith. Now, Mr. Smith says that he was standing sort of far away, but he definitely saw Will fall and then start hitting Matt. After that, he saw both boys hitting each other a lot. A few days later, we still haven't figured out exactly what's going on, so we decide to ask Matt's best friend Sam what happened, because I heard that he was watching the fight. So Sam said that Matt did trip Will, but it was only because Will had made fun of Matt during the previous period, and that Will hurt Matt worse anyway. So how do we figure out what really happened? The hell said something a little bit different. Well, we know that Matt and Will are both very biased because they were involved in the fight. They might change their story because they don't want to get in trouble. So we should be a little bit skeptical of what they say. Mr. Smith here, our teacher, is probably the most trustworthy of all of our sources because he was neutral in the fight, so he's not biased that way, and he has some authority, so we can trust him a little bit more. However, he was standing kind of far away, so we should remember that he might not have seen everything perfectly still. And the friend Sam, well, he's also probably pretty biased because he is friends with Matt. Also, he didn't tell the story until a few days after it happened, so he might not remember everything very well. Again, some parts might be true, but we shouldn't trust what he says 100%. So, out of these four people, we know that the people involved in the fight are probably the most biased, and we should be the most skeptical of them. We can probably trust Mr. Smith, the teacher, the most because he was neutral in the fight and probably is a little bit less biased, although he did tell what happened a few days after. So time is also pretty critical in our analysis here as the principal. And again, we have to remember bias when it comes to the friend Sam, because he also supports one side over another. So for the principal, us, best thing we can do is form a conclusion based on evidence from what everyone said, taking all this into account. So it seems most likely that Matt tripped Will, causing Will to hit Matt, and then both boys were equally involved in the fight. So, in history class this year, we're going to do the same thing when we analyze historical documents in history. We always have to look at who wrote it, when they wrote it, and how they might be biased in order to decide how reliable we think the source is. That way, we can form arguments based on solid evidence. So for every source you look at this year, you should always look at who wrote it, when they wrote it, and how they might be biased in order to figure out how reliable or trustworthy this information is. Don't worry, we're going to practice this a lot, and pretty soon you'll be an expert historical detective. Thanks for watching, and good luck.